Hello everybody and welcome back to Bingothon. I totally meant Indiethon. Yes, indeed, welcome back to Indiethon. This event is sponsored by Team 17 and Chucklefish, and we are raising money for Child's Play. And you can find the links to donate by typing !donate in the chat. With that said, here we are with Hollow Knight Item Randomizer 1v1 Bingo Lockout, starring Sawayoshi versus Staxis. So, just before we get started, I'm very happy to say that we actually got 2 donations. Firstly, we got a $20 donation from Blossom the Sealist with no comment, and secondly, we got a $25 donation from Zafiel Mott saying, "Good luck, Sawa and Staxi, both of you and comms are cute," smiley face. And this donation went towards the second part of the fruitless cutscene incentive. So indeed, that incentive has been met for Astria Ascending. So congratulations on meeting that. With that said, let's get going, and may I introduce here our wonderful comms.
Fantastic, thank you so much. I am Quacksilver, joined on the mic here by Palm. This is an item randomizer lockout race in Hollow Knight. I'm thrilled to be a part of this. This is the first high-profile outside race on the newest version of Randomizer, Rando 4. So in the most recent update to the Hollow Knight Randomizer, we've added a huge amount of customizability and plugging into other features. What you're going to be seeing today is a lockout race, which we obviously have a bingo board up before us, and it's first to 13 goals wins. Once a player marks a goal, the other player is not able to mark. And we will also have some Rando 4, some new shenanigans, such as the Rando Plus mod, which adds the ability to remove swim and Isma's tier, the water and acid swimming abilities, from the game, and replace them with some alternate items that allow for...
Quack muted herself.
That may be the... I see Quack is muted.
Hello? Quack? Quack, I miss you. Alright, well I can take over here. Yeah, this is a lockout race. What you just saw was King's Pass. It's kind of appropriate. The runners just finished King's Pass here. You see they already got 3 items. That's because we are randomizing a lot in this randomizer. If you do know Hollow Knight, the first 3 things that they got were the first part of King's Pass, as well as the Lifeblood, and then Fury. So Fury of the Fallen, the charm that they just got before quitting out there. A couple things to note about this randomizer in particular, and how Hollow Knight has done randomizers in the past. Because we don't want to soft lock ourselves or leave ourselves in an area of the game where we cannot get out with the current movement, we have something called Benchwarp, and this will be highly used and abused throughout the run. What Benchwarp does is any bench that you have sat at, so you saw that they actually waited to sit at that Dirtmouth bench, you can at any time pause the game and go back to one of those benches. So we kind of use those benches as hubs of the game to fast travel around, similar to something like Skyrim. Other than that, there's not too much different from the randomizer in the base game. We are on the current patch, so 1.5.70 something. I'm not exactly up to date, but if you download Hollow Knight, it's that patch. And we are using what's called a QOL, or Quality of Life mod, which adds some nice features from previous patches, or just nice overall features, like stags coming in quicker, enemies talking faster, you can mash through enemies, you can inventory drop in the middle of a room, which is something we'll get into a little bit later, but it's from an older patch.
Alright, so the randomization settings we are playing on are typically the standard randomized elements you'll see across Rando 3 and Rando 4. Some of the newer additions include soul totems, which get randomized into the world. We are not playing with grubs randomized, as it tends to drag on matches a little bit longer. And looking at the board here, it looks like there aren't a whole lot of early game goals that we're going to see racers necessarily rush for. Buy 6 map pins from Izelda can be done as soon as the players get a stag, which you saw them buy from Izelda herself. But that does cost a lot of money, and Crossroads is full of shops, so it may not necessarily be in the cards super early, but people will be eyeing that. Other than that, Obtain Vengeful Spirit could be very, very early if that's what the randomizer logic wants to be an early progression item, since it does get you out of Crossroads. But given the Stagness Stag into Desolate Dive, it's unclear if we'll see VS very early.
So Stagnus Stag here does actually, and dash slash for both of the runners, as they are still following each other. Stagnus Stag by itself does actually get you a lot of progression. You'll see both the runners walk out here, and they will have access to all of Green Path all the way down to Queen Station Stag. It also gets them access to, as you mentioned, that dive pickup. So that is 300 Geo. They're only 50 Geo short. My guess is that will be the first thing they'll be buying once they get the Geo. There are other shops in the game, but dive is a very hard thing to pass up.
Yep, and in the meantime, it looks like it's just a Zerg rush to read the lore tablet in Howling Cliffs. So this is just, it looks like a quick execution race to start off, because from Stagnus Stag, you need no additional movement to reach the Howling Cliffs lore tablet. You just need to not fall in that gap. And so we will see Staxis with the early mark. And Sawa moves right along to checking, picking up another stag a little bit early.
Yeah, this is one of the things that you can either love or hate, usually hate, about Lockout races, is if there's something very early, like if Dream Shield were on this board, for example, or something like what we saw with the Stagnus Stag right over to that lore tablet, it can get a little bit annoying because you can start losing goals by like 1 or 2 seconds. Usually that clears up after 1, maybe 2 goals, but there's enough variety in the randomizer and just in Hollow Knight. It's a huge game where the runners will most likely be taking different paths, and it won't come down to frame differences.
Yeah, it is the common curse of Lockout. The absolute last thing you want to be doing is running right behind your opponent, guaranteeing you see all the checks and goals second. So usually once we get a little bit more progression, for instance, that dive is looking kind of lucrative, you'll tend to see the runners split up and try to guess and be where the other is not. But in the meantime, we've got some great sync.
Yeah, they are at like the exact same spot right now. You can do this boss, which they're both doing without any spells here. It's a little bit annoying, but it's one of the easier bosses, if not the easiest boss in Hollow Knight, and it gives 65 Geo, which is going to be enough to get them to that 300 threshold to buy dive.
I believe we've got Boss Geo randomized, and yeah, it's just a soul refill to dive. So one of the newest randomizer features to get implemented into the standard preset, or the most common race preset, is Boss Geo, which includes drops from Benchfly King, who we just saw, as well as a couple other early game bosses, and some lucrative Geo rocks, the Crystal Guardians in Crystal Peaks. But yeah, this is a very mirrored match without a whole lot to do on the board. I think it's just get a bench and then maybe double back for dive. We'll see what happens after they finish out this round of checks.
So we have Lurian. What Lurian does is it makes Infection in the Crossroads. It is one of the Dreamers that you do need to beat the game, although these guys aren't too interested in beating the game right now. But it will make Crossroads very painful to traverse if they do have to traverse it. And like you said, Quack, it looks like they're both going to be going right back to that Desolate Dive, still only about 2 or 3 seconds behind each other.
Yeah, and from here, Desolate Dive is a boulder killer, which is one of the most important early progression sort of categories. In that it's your way out of Crossroads. The Elder Boulder can't be damaged by nail hits, and so you need one of a laundry list of items, of which dive is one, to get through that. But it also, in combination with the Resting Ground stag that both runners picked up, gets you into Right Side City. Since we are not randomizing the elevator pass, if I'm not mistaken, this will get you down towards the relic dealer, who's able to give you extra geo, as well as just opens up the map considerably. Right side access is considered sort of the holy grail for early game in a randomizer. It's a little bit nerfed given the randomization of swim, but it is still very powerful.
The kind of funny thing is the randomization of Swim, it does two things. It makes it harder to get into Kingdom's Edge, which is the very, very right side of the map. It also usually makes it harder to get into right side itself, or King Station Stag, which is where the runners are going now, because you can't cross Blue Lake, which is a common method of getting there. But they just got Resting Ground Stag and Dive right away, so they can go right to King Station regardless. And this is a pretty unorthodox start, actually. They still have no... I mean, no movement's a bit of a stretch, but nothing to actually go any faster or traverse any differently, I guess, if that's a term.
Yeah, when your early progression is stags and spells, it can feel like you've accomplished very little even when you've opened up a fair bit of the map.
I don't think either of them have done anything past... I mean, yeah, what happened is they both got Stagnus Tag, and because that Read the Lore Tablet goal was on the board, they both wanted to go there right away. And if you're going all the way to the Lore Tablet, even if you don't get the goal first, you might as well go to Green Path. So a lot of this makes sense. I could see people going to Crossroads instead of Right Side City here, because some of Crossroads is still on Logic, but again, that Lurian pickup makes it not too appetizing.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable, although as we continue down this path and the checks stay relatively unprofitable, the allure of shops grows and grows, especially if we get relics, which it looks like both runners have plenty to sell to Lem here. Also worth noting, with that Grubberfly's Elegy pickup, you saw the little parenthetical 3 by it. One of the newer things that is one of the most fun, I think, settings of New Randomizer is the ability to randomize the notch costs of charms. So, in the case of Grubberfly's Elegy, it was the vanilla notch cost of costing 3 charm notches to equip, but you can get some really wacky scenarios like a Shaman Stone that is either free or costs 6 notches, which are the endpoints for that. It can really change your loadout as you move through the game.
Yeah, it gives you a lot more varied loadouts than you'd usually get. Usually it's like, okay, I have Dash Master, I'm equipping it, I have Shaman, I'm equipping it. And then, like, there's a tier list, and I guess Spell Twister would be next or something like that. And it varies from person to person. But changing the Charm Nos can make you either not use charms that you'd commonly use, or vice versa, start using charms that you wouldn't otherwise. This is a big skip from Staxis, by the way.
Yeah, I also love the Dream Shield equipped there. Oh, yeah, that's rough. So, while our runners are trying to skip into City, let's talk a little bit about the logic settings we have. So, Randomizer obviously follows a logic to make sure all of the placements are able to be completed, or produce a seed which is completable. We are playing with the easiest logic setting, which is the common for race formats, so they will never be required to perform any skips like enemy pogos or do rooms in the dark or similar things, because the theory with Lockout is if you're comfortable with it, you will do it in order to get goals and get extra checks, and so having it forced by the seed is just a little bit unnecessary. There is, however, one exception to that. Because we are playing with the Rando Plus features of not Swim and not Ismas, acid skips are in logic, so they could be required for progression, because without acid skips logical, it's possible to get an uncompletable seed if you can't actually swim in acid.
It's also worth noting, this stuff still is in logic, because while the enemy pogo wasn't in logic, in theory they could still go back to Resting Ground Stag, go all the way down like you saw them do, and instead of walk toward King Station Stag, they could have just walked left. So even though they got here in a logical way, because it was faster, it is still... They're not out of logic yet. All these checks will be something the seed intended them to get.
Yep, and we saw there the end of a quick race to kill 3 Great Husk Sentries. That's a pretty painful goal in general if you're trying it without spells, but getting Gifted Dive makes that a lot more appealing, and once again we see Staxis just barely edging out Sawa on the race to the goal. So a quick early 2-0 lead, and also looks to be not too far behind on the moving towards some Geo, so Sawa may have to adapt their strategy a little bit in order to pick up some of these mid-game goals.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Sawa. Again, you hate to be in the position where you're just following your opponent the entire time and just a tiny bit behind them. This is an interesting quit out. I'm surprised that Staxis is doing this. I'm not sure where he might be going.
Yeah, I mean, given Infection existence, yeah, Infection also opens up a fair number of skips because of the infection bubbles and new enemies that show up there. Yeah, that's a very clean skip into Fungal Waste. Could be eyeing the buyout Leg Eater goal, or at least getting a sense of how expensive that may become. Not a whole lot else. I suppose could be setting
There's
up
a lot of
bench.
checks here,
Yeah,
too.
could be setting up a bench for Gil and Garpeed journal entries, but generally, especially with a lead, good to distance yourself from your opponent geographically.
Yeah, there's a lot of checks here. It is out of logic. It's just interesting that Staxis went all the way to Lem just to kind of go back. The vanilla fragile strength, insane.
So close to properly vanilla, just a little bit more notchy.
So this is another skip, and very nicely done. These guys are getting skips really well from Sawa. Sawa pogoing off of the enemy there, or rather the enemy's explosion at the end of their death. And Sawa will have a little more money here. Unfortunately, there was nothing at Leg Eater to buy, so it won't really matter. And this is kind of the issue I was talking about with Staxis, where Staxis is going to now have to backtrack all the way over to Lem, which could be a bit of a time loss and could start putting Sawa in the lead for these 50-50 goals.
Yeah, Leg Eater did not look too expensive in full, so we'll see if, yep, Sawa with the read. Good commitment from Sawa after losing the Great Husk Sentry goal to, like, rush Lem, make sure that Geo is locked up before they're moving to Leg Eater. Also, that's very cute. That check in the ceiling there that Sawa just passed by is not logical because the game expects you to have dash to reach it, but if it's a soul totem or a grub, you can hit it through the floor. So good, a good just quick check knowing that's useless for later.
Yeah, that's kind of fun that you can just up slash, and if you don't hit anything, you know it's something later. I didn't think of that. I'm not sure if we can buy out Leg Eater here. We'll see. I know strength is like 400. That Wanderer's Journal is an absolute pain.
Yeah, the way the randomizer works is that junk items and quasi-junk items like Charm Notches and Pale Ore tend to be very expensive when they get put in shops, just to make those goals a little bit more scintillating, so seeing that 1400 journal hurts.
Yeah, it looks like... I couldn't tell exactly, but Sawa's very close to being able to buy out Leg Eater. I'm not sure if they can entirely. I imagine they wouldn't quit out if they could.
Yeah, especially I think being on the back foot in terms of early goals, because that is sort of the last one that looks really quick to do.
And there you see Swim being randomized. Normally on the right side, Staxis would not have dunked in that water, but because Swim is randomized, the Knight can no longer stand in even safe water.
Yep, and actually not too bad in City specifically. There used to be a phenomenon known as the loser pit, because the game really expects you to have Claw by the time you reach the City, which is the wall jump ability, but if you don't and you fall into the drink, there are some pits that you simply can't get out of and you have to just bench warp away. So randomizing Swim has drastically cut down on the number of loser pits in Hollow Knight.
Also noting a nice little find from Sawa on the left side, just finding Fluke Nest in the middle of cliffs. Accessible for a little while now, but not toward any big checks or any other goals, so it makes sense that they haven't checked that yet. But that'll pull it back to 1-2, still in favor of Staxis.
Staxis really eyeing this. Is it enough? Looks like enough. That's going to be buyout Leg Eater as well. It is worth noting we did oh, cute little bit of bench storage there. That's the faster loads working for you. And Dashmaster is unironically a pretty good find, but like for later. Thing about Dashmaster is it requires dash.
This is a long pause out here from Staxis.
Perhaps checking a log? Unsure.
There still should be a lot of crossroads, right? I don't think these guys did False Knight Mound. Am I crazy?
Yeah, no, we haven't seen False Knight yet. Also eyeing a Zelda. Yep, we've got map pins. Need 6. Quick counting aside. I did misspeak earlier. On top of a stag, you either want Trampass or Dreamnail in order to be able to buy out 6, and you need both in order for buyout 8, which is a different goal. But splitting the geo goals evenly seems sort of appropriate for the early game, especially because the runners did not come into like a ton of relics or a ton of geo chests that would make any one runner super rich. But this is a pretty conventional start, minus the weird early progression.
It is kind of interesting that Sawa would choose to buy out Leg Eater, because I didn't think about it, but it would be a lot cheaper to buy the map pins, and there wasn't really anything useful at Leg Eater. I guess there's a Fragile Strength, which they could potentially want later.
Yeah, Fragile Strength is nice, but at 4 notches, like, that's not the value you want to see.
Yeah, I might have been just forgetting about the map pins, which, to be fair, I also did.
Yeah, that to be fair, there is also the newest check that is actually brand new in Randomizer 4, so happy Marathon debut. The new Randomizer added Divine, the Unbreakable Charms shopkeep slug, as a rando shop, as Sawa has a bit of a load. And it's no way. Sawa with the soul read on the seed.
So that is really bad for Staxis. Staxis could eventually buy that Fragile Strength. Again, Staxis does have the bench there, and Strength wasn't a ridiculous amount of money. Staxis certainly has enough. It's just something that you'd have to both think to do and go out of your way to do for just the one check. And again, Claw is maybe just the single biggest item to find in one of these randomizers.
Shopkeeper's key at Grimchild as well, that's pretty funny. Yeah, it's... If Sawa had gone for map pins, well, I guess Sawa had to buy out Leg Eater in order to get Strength. That's a bit of a catch-22. But if Sawa had more money, they would have Claw right now, which is wild to think about. That's also not technically logical yet, because both runners' infection skipped into Fungal, so Sawa just hard-reading what the seed wants them to do.
Yeah, actually 2 steps ahead of the randomizer. This doesn't work right without swim. Oh, okay, we're just poking up against Saluber here. So we will get to see Saluber's shop. This is also out of logic. We get some money, I guess.
Yep, also added with the new randomizer update is Saluber can require charms.
There's a cloak down here.
And it's accessible. Okay, cool. That wasn't quite sure. But yeah, Saluber can require that you have a certain number of charms before she sells you thing, which is behavior from the vanilla game, but was recently added to Randomizer. So an accessible cloak and Queen's Garden stag is a goal. That's visit Queen's Gardens or cast off shell. So good shot play from Staxis, but hopefully will not miss Claw for too long.
Yep, and Staxis is going to mark it. So that's a 4-2 lead. If you don't consider Claw the best item in Randomizer, you probably consider Dash the best item in Randomizer. So it's actually pretty cool that we're, not yet technically, but we're probably going to see a Claw versus Dash type seed. Sawa, again, knows where Claw is, but it is cost 750, and Staxis has no idea where Claw is, and it's about 2 steps out of logic for him.
Yeah, that would be a hard thing to read. There also don't appear to be, at a quick glance, any goals on the board that are just like, you have Claw and then you do this goal. Something worth mentioning is that in Lockout, a runner is allowed to hide the goals that they have completed and mark them at a later time. But you can hold for as much as you like, with the knowledge that if your opponent completes and marks it first, you've lost the goal. But there are some goals that are basically just get Claw and then go to a place, that are usually will get marked to tip the hand about having Claw.
Yeah, there are goals here that, like, hard require Claw. Like, get 2 Dreamers will hard require Claw, for example. And as I'm looking, that might actually be the only one. Open the Crystal Peaks chest very nearly requires Claw. But none of those are doable with just Claw.
Yeah, I believe with not Swim instead of Swim, Oro Scarecrow will require Claw, because you need to water skip into Kingdom's Edge. The water skips. Although I guess there are non-Claw ways to get that water skip. We've also now seen a lot of Rancid Eggs, which obtain 4 Rancid Eggs is on the board. That is sort of a soft geo goal as well, because Rancid Eggs have an unnerving tendency to wind up in shops.
What a quit out. I'm just watching Sawa absolutely min-max their time. Swinging the nail in before the animation is finished, pausing.
Yeah, that grub, I'm not sure. Could it be a money play? Maybe? I don't know. Grubs are not the most efficient geo, but they've also, both runners have sort of cleared around a lot of early game relics. I'm also loving the overcharm. When you're overcharmed, you can fit on more charms than you have notches for, but you take double damage while doing it. Walking around Infected Crossroads overcharmed is like a pretty good way to die, but these runners do a little bit of gaming, so it's probably fine.
Yeah, there are some things in Infected Crossroads, such as that husk that was charging towards Sawa just there, that deal 2 damage in the first place. So you can, in fact, take just a straight-up 4 damage, which would kill Sawa at this point.
And also, Hollow Knight Lockout has a vast and storied history of dying to False Knight here, the first boss in the game. Unfortunately for Staxis, dying to False Knight is a tournament-winning strategy, so we'll see... What?
So Staxis will get his own claw. Staxis is definitely in the lead here with 4-2 and now dash and claw over Sawa.
Well, Stax, better lucky than good, I always say.
That's really painful for Sawa. That must be the in-logic claw, I'd assume, because they can already get down there with the right side. That's like in-logic early.
Unless there's like a dash and peaks or something. But yeah, it really could get like a dash and peaks into Fungal for Leg Eater and Divine would be a delightfully cursed progression. You also see spawning soul totems out of a boss's armor. Some cute new features in Rando 4.
Staxis is kind of dying, by the way. Oh, Kingsbrand for Sawa. So Kingsbrand does hardlock some of these. So check Void Heart and get the Abyss Shriek check. You will need Kingsbrand to do.
Yeah, unfortunately Kingsbrand is necessary but not sufficient for both of those goals. You need Wraiths for Abyss Shriek and Shade Cloak and Vertical, I believe, for check Void Heart. Maybe just Shade Cloak and like a Shade Skip. But unlikely that we will see Abyss early, especially when we've got both claws already known.
And there's Grimchild for Staxis, so Grimchild also required for Obtain Carefree Melody. I think that's like all of the individual things. I guess Vengeful Spirit we're still looking for. Defeat Broken Vessel we would need C-Dash or Wings for, which neither runner has currently.
Or Glowing Womb and a lot of determination.
But yeah, this should be Staxis going toward Open the Chest and Crystal Peaks. That is quite good because it's a lot of checks and Sea Peaks. You can see Staxis already finding Grimchild. And it's one of the only just guaranteed goals that you can go for right now with Dash plus Claw.
Staxis going for Pogax, but missing Pogax. On the currentest patch of the game, Pogax, that trick there where you pogo off the Miner's Axe, Pogax, is a bit of a myth, but we love to see top runner. Just like a little bit.
There's also a spend 4k Geo goal, by the way, which we're getting kind of close to, with 2,500 each.
Yeah, and especially once Staxis marks Crystal Peaks chest, I would really be interested in knowing what's going on inside Sala's head, because if you're Sala and you haven't, like, it would be massively difficult to assume that Staxis found a different claw than you found, especially because of how expensive Leg Eater was to buy out versus map pins.
Yes, stress will be going on in Sala's head, unfortunately. But yeah, you can see even Dreamgate here for Staxis, just a lot of checks in Crystal Peaks up here.
It's a little bit of boss geo for, another boss geo check for Staxis here. But yeah, Crystal Peaks is very well made, as well as having the fastest accessible goal on the board. Basically, once you find Claw, the game radically transforms into, like, is a goal available? Great, simply do that goal.
Yeah, I will say, it's a lot better now than it used to be. First of all, because we changed the goals around a little bit over the past, 3 years?
Yeah.
And additionally, because Swim really helps that. There used to be a lot of kind of just Claw Kingdom's Edge goals. Now you need a way into Kingdom's Edge that isn't just have Claw, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, and also, as I see was mentioned, worth necessary background context, Lockout in particular, is played with duplicate major items on, so there is a second copy of every major movement item. There is, in this specific setting, we have a third dash. Sometimes you'll see 4 dashes, a Duped Mothwing and Shade Cloak, but this is just 3 dashes, as well as 4 Dream Nails in total, and an extra piece of King Soul, Void Heart. Those last couple tend not to matter as much, but the extra dash and the extra claw make for some incredible content, as we have seen here today. And there's the Crystal Peaks chest mark from Staxis, so Sawa is now, like, concerned, capital C,
Panic.
I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what Staxis... Oh, Staxis just finds Shade Cloak. Okay.
I mean, with QG Stag as well, that's a very content Traitor Lord fight if Staxis wants to go
Traitor Lord
for it.
is legally possible. Nosk is legally possible. With Shade Cloak, Umu is legally possible.
God, if we see some cursed dive-only Umu, sounds miserable. Let's go for it.
There are a lot of things here that can be done.
Alright, but Sawa is going to get their claw at long last. Absolutely trolled by this seed. Finding claw with the Galaxy Brain play early and then being punished for it.
I want to know which one was the intended claw now. This is very important to me.
Yeah.
Presumably Basin. Hidden Station Stag there could actually be good for Sawa in a way, because it could get Sawa over to... Oh, I guess Sawa would just find Dupe Claw at that point. Never mind. Sawa needs one of the dashes.
And checking the relic here named after my co-commentator in Rando Lexicon. Generally in Randomizer, the community has all sorts of cute pet names for individual checks. Usually they are because someone messed up big time.
Okay, for the record, Palm Relic is because May messed up, not because I messed up.
Exactly. Either it's someone who messed up or someone who reminded someone else who messed up. And that's how you get immortalized in Hollow Knight Randomizer. Tell your friends. So now, this part of the game is just sort of like calculus about how cursed of a goal are you willing to do. I feel like Staxis is much more willing to do cursed things, having 2 dashes to Sawa's none. But we'll see if Sawa is a seasoned skiff professional. I don't know Sawa's comfort level or necessarily desire for cursed combat, but we will see if Sawa opts to go for any of these stellarly cursed things.
Sawa is heading toward Deep Mist right now, so there are 3 Mimics here. There is a goal to get 4 Mimics. The 4th Mimic, almost every time, unless you want to go into Kahlo, is going to be in Crystal Peaks and will require C-Dash. I think it hard requires C-Dash. I don't think there's another way to get up there.
Yeah,
Maybe there is.
Yeah, Crystal Heart is hard required. Staxis potentially looking at eggs, or just that's Staxis' first slide check, so it's been a minute. But the Dirtmouth shopkeepers are in fact littered with eggs. So as we start to see runners replenish, especially Sawa, especially Staxis, because Sawa had to cash out on Claw. I bet eggs is another goal getting marked here in short order.
Yeah, the nice thing about eggs is if you can find some more relics to actually buy the eggs, you could get 4 eggs and 4k geo spent. Again, we're pretty close to that goal. In total, Staxis has 3,000 geo, and Sawa is already at like 3.5k, only 500 away from that goal, which is like 1 Helena seal would be enough.
Yeah, and especially when you're behind, generally geo goals are the sort of thing that are quite obnoxious in Lockout because you really need them to like patch up a deficit when you're behind, but they often require like trips to Lem or randomly scouring parts of the map that are not necessarily goal dense, and so it is a bit unfortunate that Sal's probably in the position where if they come into some money, they may be eyeing that 4k spent goal, because you don't want to lose that even if it's like free for your opponent and painful for you.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times the randomizer can or lockout can kind of even itself out, because one person might be doing like early goals on the board when the other person might be getting progression items, which ends up with them getting mid-game goals, and then you come into this like 6-6, 7-7 tie. The problem with this race is that Staxis did the goals and got dash and claw for them.
And yeah, got absolutely unpunished by that claw placement there. So I also like the setup from Sawa here. That is the Garpede journal entry. Looks like we're gonna go get the Gome journal entry here in just a second. That's another good goal to pick off the board before Staxis can get to it. Also love the Dreamgate placement from Staxis. That's Dreamgate is a waypoint that lets you teleport from anywhere on the map. In Randomizer with Benchwarp, that's usually a lot less big of a deal, but Lem is curiously near basically no benches, so one of the most common Dreamgate points you'll see in Rando is just right in front of Lem's shop.
Yeah, that is a nice Dreamgate. The issue with that is you can no longer Dreamgate just around wherever you want to go, because a lot of times you'll just put a Dreamgate somewhere whenever it's convenient, and then go back to it almost immediately. But yeah, committing to having that Dreamgate stay at Lem can be really helpful, especially for stuff like this, where we're getting eggs, and namely the 4K Geo goal for Staxis, now taking a 7-2 lead.
Yep, and there it goes. And is Sawa... Did I miss something, or is Sawa holding goals again? Unless I missed something about Gome and Garb. Oh, we need the Hunter's Journal. That's why we're in green.
Yeah,
journal entries require a Hunter's Journal, Quack. So, we're going to go get that in relatively quick succession here. I can't imagine Sawa will try to delay. Holding goals, a viable strategy, a much less viable strategy when you're down 7-2.
It's worth noting, just looking at these goals, if Staxis gets C-Dash, Staxis can probably just push to win, because that would be, I believe that would be Edge Access, which gets like 3 goals in here. Okay, I can't count. 2 goals in here? Anyway. There's also Immolish out of Sewer, there's also the Dung Defender sign, which are disgustingly similar. Like, that's very nearly the same goal.
They're very close to each other. Also worth noting that Sawa found King Soul, which is necessary for check Void Heart, but also it looked like it was free. King Soul is typically 5 notches, where it's ridiculously bad, but at free, having a never-ending well of soul is, like, pretty good, actually.
Yeah, King Soul is one of those, like I was mentioning earlier, where you really change your charms up depending on how much King Soul costs. It's also, like, convenient, because if you're in, like, a really bad spot, or you messed up and you have 1 HP, you can kind of just stand in place for a little bit and heal if you want to be super baby about it, which I often do.
Yeah, especially in some of the more unforgiving boss fights. Alright, Staxis also making progress on those 4 mimics here. It's worth noting that, like, you don't necessarily need anything other than C-Dash in order to get to that mimic. So, in theory, Sawa and Staxis have equal luck at getting to that 4th mimic. In practice, however, not having dash continues to hurt, actually.
Yeah, the other issue is, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Staxis has the CG bench, so it would be a lot faster for Staxis to get there.
Yeah.
The good news for Sawa here is Staxis is going to waste a little bit of time going for these Gome Garpede goals, whereas Sawa has already made a lot of progress, so even with this dash deficit, we can see Sawa's already at the Hunter's Journal, should be marking that goal first.
Yes, I hope we do not see a hold. But now I may have just manifested that, we'll see. Sawa also picking up a simple key there. The logic for simple keys was slightly changed in Randomizer 4. No, okay, there is the mark. You love to see it. Logic for simple keys was slightly changed in that now there are 2 extra simple keys. They've become a duplicated item. This is because of the egg shop, one of the most commonly requested features for Randomizer. Gigi, the Shade Summoner in the vanilla game, is now a shopkeeper who accepts rancid eggs in exchange for checks. So in order to not force as much progression to Royal Waterways, which is where the game really expects you to use your key at first, there were just extra simple keys added to split up some of that progression.
A little bit of trouble in the Dark Room for Staxis, but it shouldn't be too bad. Staxis is probably going toward Lurian here. So get 2 Dreamers is one of those checks that you can put off for a little bit. It does take a while, but it is doable with just Claw Dreamnail. This fight is not the easiest with Dive only, but if you're going to only have one spell, you certainly want Dive for Watcher Knights.
Yeah, definitely comfier than the any percent speedrun, which does them with Fireball only, which is the most common wall/complaint for newer speedrunners of Hollow Knight.
It is very common. I have been browsing the help channel recently.
Is Sawa also eyeing it?
Yeah, this will be painful for Sawa. Even if Sawa gets Watcher Knights first, which I highly doubt happens, there's no way Sawa gets 2 Dreamers first.
Yeah.
This could be a lot of wasted time, unless there's like dash up here or something to even out the...
And the 1-2 punch of check 2 your Dreamers and defeat Umu might just come close to locking this game up.
Yeah, so we can't check unless they don't have... Like, Wall-Cling storage is illegal, right? Yeah, without C. Anyway, what's that? They can't actually check Monomon yet, so they can defeat Umu or they can check Hera. Checking Hera is painful at the moment without Lantern, and even more painful for Sawa without Dash. But this Watcher's fight makes me think that it might be what Staxis is going for.
Yeah, I mean, it is, like, oftentimes in Rando, unless there's something in particular drawing you to it, Watchers is the sort of thing that you put off when you have Void spells. But it is alluring. I'm curious why this is the first goal of the Curse Boss Rush. I guess I'd rather do Watchers than, like, Nosk right now.
Yeah, there's Nosk, there's Umu, but Watchers... The thing is, Watchers doesn't get you a goal unless you're going Hero. So I imagine you don't do Watchers unless you're planning on doing both, right?
Although,
like, unless you're just holding Watchers for a while.
Yeah, we also did see Distant Village Stag earlier. So
True.
If Staxis breeds
true.
and goes for the Umu 1-2 and Sawa rushes Hera, they might be able to snake the goal, but also Sawa looks like unclear. Unclear what the game plan is here from Sawa. At this point, I think they just really need to find a dash.
Yeah, Sawa needs to get some... Like, Sawa needs to find C-Dash before Staxis, hands down. Otherwise, it's going to be too much of a deficit, if not just 13 right away. 13 goals being the amount you need to win.
Fragile Greed. The second Fragile Charm may inspire Staxis to check Divine and find the hilarious claw.
You mean the intended?
I mean, I believe it's intended, but it's no less hilarious.
And yeah, Distant Village Stag. I completely forgot they had DV Stag, but Distant Village Stag is the fast track to Hera, which makes a lot of sense why Staxis was doing Watcher Knights. It all makes sense now.
Yep, so we are going right for... I love this check. There's no way that you find that casually, in my very biased opinion, but there's a soul totem down there. And thanks to...
You just dunk there now?
Yep, thanks to no swim, don't have to worry about climbing back up in the dark. You just take the hazard respawn. Thank you, swimmers.
So yeah, I don't understand that soul totem. It's like a consolation for if you fell off those platforms. It's like, well, this is unfortunate. But it's like a getting over it type thing. It's like, wow, you really lost a lot of progress. Have a soul totem.
Yep, and Sawa leveraging their simple key well to grab Talk to Tuck. I don't know if Staxis found a simple key. I imagine if Staxis had, he must have chosen that over 2 Dreamers, but going to... Staxis gonna wrap up Hera in short order.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember where Sawa found their simple key, but I'm pretty sure it was somewhere that Staxis had not gone. It was somewhere, like, random.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember.
Sawa also absolutely flirting with death there, diving so early with the iframes just barely lasting through the Bellfly explosion. That is also a double damage enemy, so that was a death for Sawa if the iframes had worn off a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it is worth noting these guys are playing really well. Like, outside of Sawa getting unlucky, the actual movement and gameplay and logic has been really good.
Yeah, Sawa is getting punished for reasons entirely outside of their control this afternoon. Staxis correctly saving the Beast Den grub, any Hollow Knight, any percent runner will tell you that that is a moral imperative, if nothing else. I don't think we've seen either runner check grubs. At this point, it's unlikely that grubs are anything too spectacular, because we've seen most of what we need to see. I guess it could be hiding a Crystal Heart, but it's still the moral imperative.
Yeah, I think checking grubs makes a lot of sense here, actually. Especially for Sawa, who needs to find something kind of quirky, if you will. Like, some weird check that just gets C-Dash. Because if Sawa just trails Staxis the entire rest of the race, Staxis is going to be faster and already has more goals.
Yep, alright, both runners trying to consider where to go, I imagine. Staxis taking a much shorter pause. Is this the Grim fight? We were hovering Grimchild. Yep, alright, so, obtain Carefree Melody. Carefree Melody is not randomized as a charm because of how obnoxious it is to get. What it entails is, obviously, first you have to have Grimchild to summon the tent, you have to beat Grim, and then go back to Brum in Distant Village, where Staxis was a little bit earlier, banish the Grim troop, and then talk to Brum, or Nim, in Dirtmouth. So, Grimchild is required for this, which I believe only Staxis has found the actual Grimchild. Oh no.
Oh my. Staxis now finds Shopkeeper's Key immediately. Is going to be able to.
Oh, no.
Wait, Sawa didn't check Lem then. Oh, because Sawa hasn't been to Salubra because Salubra had Dash.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Sawa getting absolutely played a fool by these Shopkeepers. Yeah, and as soon as Wings happens, that's Broken Vessel. Broken Vessel is not a particularly difficult boss. The platforming to get to Broken Vessel is kind of obnoxious. And if you don't have C-Dash or Wings, you have to do some very convoluted shade skips to get to Broken Vessel, but as soon as you have Wings, especially with Dash, that becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah, of the four, like, I would say there's four, like, main, quote-unquote, movement abilities, being Dash, Claw, Wings, C-Dash, and we're currently, like, 3-1. It's really painful for Sawa here. The good news is Sawa is very close. Sawa's gonna get the second claw, by the way. This is very sad.
Pain.
Sawa is very close to having the other two movement abilities by just checking shops. Like, if they get one, they probably get both.
Yeah, especially because Salubra had Geo. Like, I don't even think it's like, you have to go all the way to Lem to get your Wings, and I could be doing goals with Dash Claw that time. Like, no, you visit Salubra and you're set.
Yeah, you had the Geo. Also, Wings, I think, were only 100 or something. Dash might have been a bit more.
Yeah, Dash was a little bit more expensive, and Sawa now setting themselves up for even more pain by grabbing this toll bench right as Staxis is making the vessel fight. Are we going to her? I believe in the Salubra check. Unfortunately, one of the most obnoxious things about Infection is that you can't take this lower path to the Shopkeepers, so you have to go on the upper path, and never mind,
we're
Sawa's
going high.
Going elsewhere entirely.
This peaks? I wonder if... So, what could have happened here is Sawa has seen Staxis mark all these goals, and Sawa's like, Staxis is simply too fast. So, Sawa might think Staxis has Dash, which is correct, and might think that... And now Sawa's trying to search for where Staxis found it, and the first goal that Staxis marked here was the Peaks chest. So Sawa thinks that Dash is near the Peaks chest, which is actually still correct, just a different Dash.
Yeah, I was about to say, might get unpunished themselves here. Yep,
this is Grimchild. This is Grimchild. I don't know if that's possible. If it is, it's hard.
I think you need at least an air stall to get there. Dash is what's logical.
Just use Dash Slash.
You've got Dash Master. Surely that's enough.
Surely.
Alright, so Stax is going for the water
this
skip.
is logic.
I don't think we've seen Not Swim. Yeah, Staxis is taking damage here, so... yeah, this is... Especially without air stalls, this is a very tough, skip.
You could also just die here and use your Shade, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. maybe it's that, but then you wouldn't heal. Yeah, no. Staxis regrouping. With air stalls, it's possible to like sort of dash under that gap and then wings air stall to make it around. I don't think I've seen the air stall list version live.
All right, there's a dash for Sawa.
All right, it's go mode for Sawa. Sawa does have King's Brand, which I don't think Staxis has yet. There's the water skip.
That's a nice skip. That was at a false knight.
So, like, if Sawa can claw their way back, or I suppose more apt is dash their way back, and yet, smart move to go to Nosk. Oh, that's rates. That's big for a Bishri check, but now it's split. Sawa going for Nosk skip here. Game expects you to have C-dash or wings, but thanks to some jank geometry on the walls, there is a set of wall jumps you can do here. Still having a bit of difficulty for it, but you can.
So,
go ahead.
Sorry. My fear here is that I think Staxis can probably win via Trader Lord, Tiso's Shield, Oro's Scarecrow, and one other. I feel like with this access into Edge, that's probably enough for Sawa to just rush goals here for 13.
Yeah, oh, Sawa making the skip and then getting one slash and falling by the wayside. There it is. Alright.
That's a nice skip.
I don't know, maybe Pale or Nosk is going to be huge. Maybe Pale or Nosk is C-dash, is duplicate C-dash.
C-dash would actually be so helpful right now.
Yeah, that's sort of
C-dash is probably the number one item.
Yeah, I think at this point it's basically the only thing that would realistically keep Sawa in it, because that gets you the Waterways goals, which are two very, very quick ones. Vengeful Spirit would actually be great, because you can still, like, Spike Tunnel into Waterways with Vengeful Spirit, and you can obtain Vengeful Spirit with Vengeful Spirit.
You could, in fact, obtain Vengeful Spirit.
I hear it's possible. Legends speak.
I've never seen it done. A race first.
It does occur to me that Sawa does have Dash Master, which I believe might be sufficient. You probably need an air stall either way without C-dash. Thinking about the Isma's geometry there, I think you need an air stall on top.
Yeah, I think you need an air stall. I like the equipped Quick Slash, by the way, just to hit the statue faster. Respect.
I mean, that is the Oro Scarecrow meta. Unfortunately, we'll be quitting out before seeing it. In the vanilla game, if you hit that Scarecrow, it drops 2 Great Hoppers from the sky after a while. In Rando, that number is a little different. Go play for yourself. I encourage everyone to hit that Scarecrow.
No Tiso's Shield. I like the Dreamgate usage with this as well. It's nice to just get a tree and get 5 quick essence. But no Tiso's Shield for Staxis. I'm watching Sawa now. This is what I mean by baby healing.
It's King Soul's good for it.
Yep.
So, for those of you maybe blissfully unaware of the Nosk fight, Nosk wins a special place in my heart as just the worst. Especially with a loadout much like the one Sawa has right now. Because as you've seen already, Nosk likes to hide in the ceiling from time to time, and if you don't have wings or an up spell, Abyss Shriek or Howling Wraiths, you cannot touch Nosk, and he will run around in the ceiling bullying you for what feels like forever. And yeah, so with that Race and Wings makes it free, so yeah, this is 2 very quick goals from Staxis.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the air stall getting into here. Yeah, that's so good.
Do we have time for a quick message?
We absolutely do.
Alright, thank you so much. Since we're really reaching, into the second half of the match and it's really getting fastly paced, I'm just thinking, we are less than $40 away from reaching $800 for a Child's Play. So I'm thinking, can we reach it before the end of this run? At least according to estimate, we have about 45 minutes left, but at the pace things are going, who knows how that could turn out, but that would be absolutely amazing if we could reach $800 for Child's Play before the end of the run, potentially. It is an absolutely great cause, so let's keep it going and let's see how things go.
Yeah, that was an absolutely brutal knife twist from Staxis there, warping away before Emilicia, knowing that with the mark on check the sign or read the sign, there's no way Sawa ever goes for Emilicia until they absolutely have to.
I guess. I'm so confused why you don't just do a militia while you're there.
I think it's more to send a message than necessarily possible. But yeah, with all respect to the $800 milestone, which I'm trusting all of the Hollow Knight Rando community in the chat to be helping us reach here today, I don't think it's going to take 45 minutes to get to the end of this run.
Well, we saw we were behind on estimate, so Staxis just decided to find all the progression.
Exactly.
I respect it.
It's a noble play.
I will say, kind of as a note of what we were talking about earlier, where Claw can kind of get you a lot of goals, because of all these Kingdom's Edge goals and all these kind of tricks you can do with wings, it's turned into not just Claw, but when the progression lead is this much, where you've had dash for 20, 30 minutes more, and you have wings versus no wings, that is where the progression really makes itself known, and you can do all of these goals pretty much anywhere in the map with these three abilities, save the few C-dash goals. Unless you die.
Yeah, especially this Great Hopper back here is not the kindest, although, okay, if it's a Soul Totem, you can get it in and out for free.
Yeah, so it looks like the path, we're at 11 right now for Staxis, it looks like the path is going to be Tiso's Shield, and then I imagine there's the check Nosk, or defeat Nosk mark. I imagine the last one is going to be SWAT. Wait, no, I just said that. To talk to Militia.
Yeah, I can't see a reason to not do Emilicia for goal 13, even if it was just like completely forgetting it in the first place. We are very close here to the end. So that's Colo Bench. I think Staxis, still has some Tiso quests to do. So in order to swat Tiso's shield off his corpse, obviously Tiso first has to die, and that requires talking to him in a couple locations around the map. Most of them are right out here, and the last one is inside Coliseum, and then you start a Coliseum trial, and Tiso dies somewhere off screen.
Yeah, so we're almost done with that quest line. Like Quack said, we just have to go into Colo and then leave and actually swap the shield. There are honestly a variety of choices for Staxis to finish with. I would appreciate the Trader Lord content.
Trader Lord would be some content, it is true. We'll see once Staxis makes his final choice. We'll segue into wrapping up the run a little bit. Choosing to Dreamgate out of Colo instead of where did they set that? Oh, they're that's
well at Tiso, yeah.
Beautiful. Chef's kiss.
King Station. This is probably talk to Militia. This is the point where you, if you're Sawa, you just kind of don't want to be Sawa. There's not much to say. I mean, we had the Lockout tournament, of course. A lot of people in the Randomizer community, at least more veterans of the Randomizer community, have played a fair deal of Lockout, and everyone knows, at some point or another, everyone knows how it feels to just be, for lack of a better word, completely doomed in terms of goals. It is not a fun time.
Yeah.
Do we have time for a donation?
Absolutely.
We do.
All right. We got $10 from Rix without a comment, but we indeed can say that gets us closer to the $800 as we're now sitting at $771. So indeed, as we're seeing here, the pace is getting really quick here, so there is still time, but it's running out, so let's keep it going.
Yeah, we are at the last goal right now.
Yep, and
we would need an instant donation.
as luck would have it, this is perhaps my favorite goal in all of Bingo. Eternal Emilicia has cloistered herself away in this far corner of Waterways, and that is the talk to Emilicia. That's going to be time.
Well, it happens sometimes. I'm sorry to Sawa.
Sometimes
It's
Lockout
rough.
really do be like that. Just the sheer amount of punish on that second claw.
Yeah. Do we have time? I know the marathon's running a bit behind, so we can just end it here if you want to. Otherwise, we can drag them in for an interview.
Great, we got to go ahead to do a short post, so let's get Sawa and Staxis in here.
Well, considering we're in terms of scheduling, yeah, the run ended early, so we we're how are we compared to when the next run should? The next run should already have started a while ago, so I'm not sure we really have the time. Unless you can, however, maybe they can have some final goodbyes, some final words they want to say before we move on.
Sounds good. Welcome on in, runners. That was a brutal match.
Yeah, GG's.
GG's.
I
got the recycle militia.
I'll let you know. So there was Dash at Salubra and Wings at Sly.
Wings at
Sly
Sly.
key.
Sly key. Sawa had the key.
I never got to Sly. I went to Salubra at the very end, and that was my Shade Cloak.
Yeah.
All right. As deference to the schedule, just want to quickly shout out runners for incredible content, as well as the Hollow Knight and Rando devs as well for giving us Randomizer 4, which everyone should download, and of course the Indiethon staff for whom we are beleaguering with our Rando, but hopefully catching up to the schedule.
Yeah.
All right.
Commentators, of course. Quacksilver and Palm.
Thanks to Palm and Quack for commentating.
Indeed. You all did a great job for this run, whether it be in the run itself or the commentary. So thank you so much for this run. Just before we move on, I'm very happy to say that we actually got, oh my god, like the more I go, I keep seeing more donations. We first got $5 from Nix, no comment. Then we've got KingKiller39 with a $30 donation saying, "Great to see some Hollow Knight. Good luck, racers." Well, clearly the race is already over, but I think we can appreciate the good luck. And that donation went towards Rainbow Billy, the Curse of the Leviathan, for the Pet the Dog incentive. And finally, we've got probably one of the best donations so far. We've got Zafiel MRT donating $69.69, going, "You know what makes me happy? This comms team. Look at them. The absolute cuties. Some of the nicest, most outstanding people in the Hollow Knight randomizer community. And the racers. You cuties as well. God, I love these races. Good luck to racers and comms. Also, nice."
An ancient pasta, but a beautiful one. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks,
Indeed, we've got some really wonderful donations, so thank you everyone. And indeed, see, we did manage to reach beyond $800. We're now sitting at $876, and yes, indeed. So with that said, we'll be going right into intermission with Metroid Deep Freeze by Xonoris. So sit tight everyone, and we'll be right back.